Previously on In Transition.
I did not know where my journey was leading me, but the God that I believe in, He knew, right? 4 years before I got laid off and I started doing these networking events and I started building things around these events, I worked my full time job and at least for 2 years came home after I took dinner, took care of my family, and worked for a couple of hours every day on my business.
Yeah.
Listen, that's a sacrifice. But
Yep.
again, and it wasn't even me digging into that thinking, oh, I'm going to be starting this business. It's just what I felt like I needed to do to make sure I provided a great service to women when they came to whatever it was I was offering. But all of that work, that double time work, full time job, and the couple hours in the evening on my business, when it came time for the layoff, I was so much more prepared than even I knew because I had done all of these things. Again, not even with the intention of, I'm going to start a business. I was thinking, I'm just going to keep offering these events and services. But it really, looking back on it, right, it was really preparing me for December of 2014 when I was going to truly be leaving the corporate space. I look back on so many things in my journey that I wasn't really seeing, wasn't focused on. But when you oftentimes get to the other side of your rainstorm and look back, you go, oh, wow, like that was a strategic move getting me ready for my future self. And no matter, listen, to everyone listening to this episode, no matter how painful some of your current seasons might be, know that there is not something you're going through that is preparing you for your future self. I say that there are no wasted pain points if we can get the lesson, because that lesson is something we need for our future self. So no matter how painful, how long the current season seems like it has been or it might be, know that everything through that season is preparing you for something for your future. You might not know what it is. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it prepared me for what I needed.
We are so excited to be back for part 2 of this conversation. If you haven't listened to part 1, we encourage you to go back and take a listen. Now on to the show.
I did not know where my journey was leading me, but the God that I believe in, He knew, right? 4 years before I got laid off and I started doing these networking events and I started building things around these events, I worked my full time job and at least for 2 years came home after I took dinner, took care of my family, and worked for a couple of hours every day on my business.
Yeah.
Listen, that's a sacrifice. But again, and it wasn't even me digging into that thinking, oh, I'm going to be starting this business. It's just what I felt like I needed to do to make sure I provided a great service to women when they came to whatever it was I was offering. But all of that work, that double time work, full time job, and the couple hours in the evening on my business, when it came time for the layoff, I was so much more prepared than even I knew because I had done all of these things. Again, not even with the intention of, I'm going to start a business. I was thinking, I'm just going to keep offering these events and services. But it really, looking back on it, right, it was really preparing me for December of 2014 when I was going to truly be leaving the corporate space. I look back on so many things in my journey that I wasn't really seeing, wasn't focused on. But when you oftentimes get to the other side of your rainstorm and look back, you go, oh, wow, like that was a strategic move getting me ready for my future self. And no matter, listen, to everyone listening to this episode, no matter how painful some of your current seasons might be, know that there is not something you're going through that is preparing you for your future self. I say that there are no wasted pain points if we can get the lesson, because that lesson is something we need for our future self. So no matter how painful, how long the current season seems like it has been or it might be, know that everything through that season is preparing you for something for your future. You might not know what it is. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it prepared me for what I needed.
Yeah. And now you're able to now that you've been through the rainstorm and you are where you're at now, you actually can sit back and be like you said, oh, okay, well, that was because of this, and this was because of that, and that was because of this. And then even at that point, you have all of these lessons that you've gained as you've continued down this path. So if somebody in your community or somebody that's new to your community is going through that, you can pull that resource and say, okay, you know what? I was kind of there. I was kind of in the same spot.
Yep.
This is what I learned. I'm not saying this is the way you have to do it, but take heed to what I'm telling you.
Yeah. And I've shared this part of my story countless times over the last 8.5 years, because someone's always at a transition. Might not necessarily be a career transition, but we are always in life on our journey, transitioning from one thing to another. So being able to give that encouragement really helps other women and men, but I work predominantly with women, to kind of be able to take a breath and say, okay, I don't have to have this all figured out today.
Yeah.
What I need to be able to do is to take the next step. And then I always say the next step prepares you for the next one. Our discouragement rises when we're at step 5, but we're worried about step 20.
Yep.
And I'm always saying, if you're at step 5, you are prepared. I call that a Maven quote, CPR. You're capable, prepared, and ready for the very next step. So if you're at 5, you're CPR, capable, prepared, and ready for step 6.
Not 20.
Step 18 is going to get you ready for 20. You don't have to worry about step 20 when you're at step 5.
Yeah. I love that. Maven, Myra just invited everyone to take a breath. So if you're listening to this and you're like, this is so much, take a breath.
There are so many
breaths, and those breaths are important to just keep doing that. It's listen, we can get worked up just within ourselves about all of the barriers and the things we don't know, and I don't have the fill in the blank, whatever the resource is, right? Taking a deep breath, 3 of them at a minimum to be exact, really helps you just kind of slow down and I always try to move back to a moment of gratitude. And I'm confident that I did not arrive in this place in my journey to fail. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So if I take the deep breath and sometimes just walk away from whatever it is I'm trying to figure out, just like, let me put a pause on this. I'll come back to it later after I have a glass of wine or 2, whatever works, right? And just that breath, and you can kind of go, okay, let me tap into my community and talk this through with someone else and get that insight or that encouragement or that strategy that you need.
Yeah. I mean, so important to take those moments to just recenter yourself.
Yes.
And I think even look back at what you've already accomplished.
Yeah.
Because you get so focused on like the next thing, you don't look back and go, look at what I've already achieved.
We forget to do that. We do.
That's I've been saying that all year. It's actually written on my whiteboard. Leave space for not knowing. That's one of my things for the year. Leave space for not knowing. You're not going to know everything. And until further notice, celebrate.
My cousin and I started this thing at the beginning of the year where we have, and I do it with the girls that I mentor in elementary schools. For the girls, I call it the good stuff jar, but my cousin and I call it wins of the week. And so we have a big face. Every Sunday, we send each other a text message. Did you write your win? And we literally go back on the week. We reflect a win and we put it in the jar. And our plan is we're getting in this new space of celebrating New Year's together. So we each have to bring our jars, and we're going to dump all the good stuff out and drink wine, eat pizza, do whatever, and read all of the wins. But what we get to do now, like there's been a couple of weeks where I've just been like, oh my God, I'm just trash. I'm this, I'm not, what am I not doing? Why am I not making this? I will go get that jar. I will pull some stuff out and I will read like, okay, you got this. You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
And I do that.
It's great encouragement.
Yeah. I do that with my mentor girls. Tell me one good thing you've done since I saw you. And then we're going to read everything you did in the school year and we're going to celebrate you, you know?
Yeah. It forces us to be present, to be present in our moments, because again, that's one of the things as an entrepreneur, we are frequently looking forward. What do I need to do? What do I need to prepare for, get ready, build, design, all these things. And so I have that on my calendar every Friday to write my win for the week. And I do the same thing, put it in a jar. And it even, especially when you had a tough week, those are going to happen. There's something you can still find to say, you know what, I'm still pretty badass.
Yeah,
I can
I'm
still figure this out. Yeah. And sometimes that win is on Tuesday. I couldn't do it. So I took a full day break. That was my win.
I was just going to say, sometimes the win is that you honored yourself and you took rest.
I mean, I did that
Absolutely.
yesterday. Yeah. Like Lauren and I were talking about it before you got on the video, and I've been feeling a little under the weather. And she goes, you look great. I'm like, because I'm so rested. I didn't touch my computer at all yesterday. I didn't even come in this room.
It's necessary.
Yeah,
it's necessary.
I stayed in bed and watched Ratchet TV all day long. I mean,
Lauren, that's a great point, that sometimes the win is just honoring what our bodies are telling us we need and not ignoring it so that you can write the next blog or design the next social post. Like all of that stuff is going to get done when it needs to. It's going to be fine. But you can create a post at any time. You cannot create another you ever. We only have one body, and we must take care of it. And you hear that's, most of the things that I talk about with women is around this concept of creating a balanced rhythm, creating success with sameness, because you can get into this rhythm of go, 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 keep going. The next, we don't even realize we're doing it so much at times until our bodies we're feeling a little sick. We're feeling like stomach's not quite right. That's your body saying, sis,
sit down,
take a time out. You're doing too much, right? And be okay to honor that. I'm often saying you're not going to miss anything that's for you in your journey while you are resting. You're not going to miss anything that's for you in your journey while you are resting. Resting is required. It's not an option. It's required.
Oh my God.
I mean, unless you want to burn out, if you're on a path to burnout, you can not rest.
Thank you so
much. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women are struggling with that, even in the corporate space, extensively, this thing of being in burnout, because, women, we have kind of been groomed since young girls to take care of everybody, making sure everybody's good, right? And that's fine, but take care of ourselves first. Because I wrap that concept up by saying, if you are the captain of your ship and the captain goes down, who's manning your ship? Who's manning it? And being really intentional to take care of you, your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, all of those things can only be done by you for you. You can get other support with it, but you have to be the person that says, I'm going to make sure I'm intentional to take care of myself. Otherwise, again, we can't serve others as best we need to when we are running on fumes, or our cup is completely empty because we're in burnout mode. Everything's going to be fine while you take a break and reset and rejuvenate yourself.
So talk to us a little bit about how you weave that into what you do with women, as far as like getting to that harmony space. Because I love that you use the word harmony. Whenever I coach women, the first thing they tell me is, I want more work-life balance. And I'm like the first person to say, I don't think balance really exists. I think what you're looking for is harmony.
And that's why I call it a rhythm, balanced rhythm, because life is in motion. So our lives are also in a rhythm. And how do we manage that rhythm is by setting boundaries. Listen, that's a whole nother podcast with women and boundaries. But how this part of my journey, and I think, the thing we are created to really put out into the earth, like we often have to dig so deep in it for ourselves to get it. Listen, me being a trader, execution, go, 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 to have to slow all the way down to find my new rhythm. I cried for a year. I cried for a whole year. And I remember calling my godmother and going, this is too much, because I'm ready to go and do, and she was like, she was the one going, you're prepared for this. You're prepared for this. So how I am so intentional to talk to women about this rhythm in their life is because I had to dig in so deep after I got laid off to figure mine out. That was the beginning of my Maven journey. And again, I really look back and say that I think my tear ducts were broken for a year because I cried and cried. And it was more through frustration because I didn't really understand where I was going with this new rhythm. And why even have to be the one going through it? Like, Jesus, can you pick somebody else?
Yeah, why me?
Really, why?
And I honestly remember saying, God, I know you don't make mistakes, but I think you picked the wrong person for this. That's how unsettled and frustrated that I felt, but I couldn't get away from it. I had to keep digging deeper and deeper and figuring that out. And once I could get past some of the tears, and what really led me through that transition was being still and getting quiet. That's not something I had been practicing before. I had not been practicing any form of meditation. It was like, go, go, go. That is my meditation, right? To have to transition from literally executing all day to slowing all the way down and figuring out how to create my new rhythm, I had to just get still in the mornings, which I still practice today. And I'm always encouraging women about this quiet time. And listen, I could only start with 60 seconds. Honey, that's about as long as I could be still and keep my mind from, okay, don't forget to start the laundry and, email this person, get on LinkedIn and all the things we're going to do in a day. That's how long I could literally keep my brain from just like, ah. And I just kept building on that time. But even today, if I get up and get busy and miss that quiet time,
your days off.
Oh, about 11 o'clock, my brain's like, oh, and I'm like, what? It's like, let me just take 5 minutes and settle myself. That is that transition for me, which also means I can authentically talk to a woman when she says, well, I don't think balance is achievable. And I don't think I can find a rhythm. And I start to ask the first question. Well, what would you like your rhythm to even look like? What do you want your harmony to look like? And the tears start coming because they don't know. Because we've been in go mode. We've been taking care of families and jobs and running and going and going and going. And when you press a person on the question of, so the thing you think is not attainable, what would that even look like? And the tears, it happens so many times. Well, when they think about the question I'm asking them, the tears come up.
Yep.
Because they really do want, oh my God, what human doesn't want harmony in their lives, right?
Yep.
But it's the fear of, in this moment, Myra, I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know how to get there. And the thing I tell them is start with stillness. Just start with getting quiet every morning and begin to listen to your heart. It's going to tell you what y'all collectively should be doing and where you should be starting. And you will find that the desires of your heart start to come to the surface. That will start to begin your guide. That will start your steps. But you can't skip getting quiet because no one knows what your rhythm should be, what's going to make you feel fulfilled except you. So you've got to be intentional to get that quiet time to say, every morning I'm going to arrive in this place and I'm just going to keep sitting here and I'm going to keep listening and I'm going to keep being still until I can get some guidance. I can hear my heart telling me what I need to do. Then I'm going to start to take some steps. Listen, I cried a lot. It was so frustrating and so unsettling. Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? That's the thing we always want to know. What am I supposed to be doing? And we want, somebody to fly it by on a plane with the sign that says, Myra, go do this, right? Yeah. We want it to be that easy. Well, and when you are created to do some level of soul work, something that has to come from your soul, it's going to require the intentional of you getting connected to it first before you can share it out to other people. I'm passionate about helping women create harmony in their balanced rhythm because I know the power and the impact it can have on your life. I've lived it. I've walked through it. And so I often say, this is not something I read in a book or took a course on. I lived
You've lived
walking
it.
through this transition.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I always think about, if you're trying to hear someone talk in a crowd of people, right? It's kind of how I equate our brains. Like there's so much noise going on in there, and we're
Yeah.
trying to hear like our heart or our intuitive voice. And if we've got
Yes.
all this noise going on, it's like being in a crowd of people trying to hear one person and you're going, I can't understand what's happening right now.
There's too
You
much
can
going on.
only
And
get
that
there
was
in
the
that
frustrating
silence.
part.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part is when I first started sitting, all of the noise was still going on. I was sitting, but it was still like a lot going on. And it takes give grace to yourself. Be gentle with yourself in that process. It's a process to be able to get still enough, not just physically, but mentally, to be able to start to hear your heart, your spirit, your intuition, all of those things. So you're not going to sit tomorrow and be like, oh, okay, I heard it. I got it.
Mhm.
It's just probably not going to happen that way, because that learning to hear yourself, because oftentimes women have gotten away from even hearing ourselves because we're working in corporate spaces and for other people and doing all of those things. And everybody's not created to be an entrepreneur.
No.
Some people are created to be in the corporate space. That's fine. But you still should have the ability to hear yourself. And that the frustration was, okay, I'm sitting here, but I don't hear anything. And it's because I wanted to skip the work part. I was like, okay, I'm going to sit, I'm going to hear it, we're going to go do it.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm an executor. So I want to be executing. So that's why there were so many tears, is because I had to be able to force myself to stay in that particular season as long as I needed, until I could hear what my heart was telling me that I needed to be doing.
I remember I just went through that. I would say probably about, what is this, April? Probably like it started probably last spring. And one of my closest friends, she's a spiritual advisor. So she's into the woo-woo, but she's like, I'm into the woo-woo, but I love the Lord and I love him to death. And I would talk to her about all these struggles that I was just like, all these obstacles and like just potholes I was hitting all last year. And she and I got on a call around like New Year's Eve, New Year's Eve. And she and I just started talking, and I just started sobbing. Like I said one word and I just started sobbing. And she goes, there it is. And I was like,
yep,
release.
And she's like, she's like, I'll turn off my camera. You just need to get this out.
Yeah.
And I said, no, it's good. I said, you're my sister. It's cool. And she's like, I couldn't help you. I couldn't, because you had to realize all of this stuff for yourself. So anything I would have told you to help you get through that would have fallen on deaf ears, and you probably would have cursed me out. And she's right. I probably would have.
Yeah.
But she's like, this is the cleansing you need to get to where you're supposed to be. So she goes, and this probably isn't going to be the first, last, and only cry. She's like, but when it happens, wherever it happens, let it out. She goes, because you need to let that's all the stuff that you need to purge out of your system. Every belief you've had, every obstacle that that has been ingrained in you to believe about yourself or your situation. She goes, just let it out. And, there are still days when those tears come, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah. Let me just sit with it. Yeah.
It's important. And I often say, tears have never hurt anyone.
Nope.
That's part of our cleansing process. And again, listen, I had a lot of cleansing to do, obviously, because I cried for a year. Okay. But again, I think part of that was the trying to resist it, trying to resist that vulnerability. I remember saying that I felt like if I started crying, I would be able to shut the valve off. That was my fear. If I start this tear thing, there's so much frustration and uncertainty in me right now. Like it's going to be like a gusher coming out. And I don't want to be like a gusher. I don't want to be. And it's just, again, that's our need to be in control. Because now we're trying to control our tears. Seriously, get it together, Myra. Right? But when I could go ahead and just, in my quiet time, let that be what I needed it to be, without trying to control it, make it be something this or that. Just be present. And I tell women, when you start on this quiet time just let it be. Don't try to make it be something, and which is often why I don't go into a whole bunch of detail about what my journey was. I don't need don't try to make it be what I needed.
Yeah.
Let it be what you need. And it's, we have to have those moments where, and I still go through those. Anytime another big transition is coming up that I need to be on, that quiet time pulls at me harder, and I have to get still and get quiet and, go. I feel like I go through the same thing with God, like, no, that's going to be too big. I'm not going to be able to do that. And he's like, really? We're going to do this again.
Over here. Okay.
Yep.
Really? Still on that?
We are here.
We're still there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think
you're right. But it's still your assignment.
Yeah, but that's really cute, but we're going to keep moving forward. Okay.
We're still going to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I think sometimes our inability to sit with the discomfort of that, or like just feeling like we're failing at the being quiet and still, gets us in that perpetual quit mode too, where we're like, I'm terrible at this. I suck. I can't do this. So I'm just going to not do it.
I tried it. I'm
like, no. And then, you kind of psych yourself out too. And sometimes that's telling you maybe you're not ready right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know when it's your time, is kind of what I always will tell a coaching client too. And I was like, your guidance, your inner knowing is being blocked right now. If you can't sit in that stillness, don't be hard on yourself. You've already been doing that probably most of your life.
Yeah.
You have to just honor the fact that maybe you're just not in that space right now, and it's going to take some more time.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Doesn't mean it's impossible.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things I probably say the most is be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
Be gentle with yourself. None of us have this all figured out. Even if someone says they do on Instagram, keep scrolling. No one has it all figured out. And it's going to require you being gentle with yourself and learning things that work for you or don't work for you, right? I do my quiet time in the morning. Maybe someone else's works better at night. I don't know. But if you don't start to do that part of your journey, then you're never going to know. And I'm just going to say out front, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
In order to get to where you want to be, you got to go through discomfort, or where you're meant to be. You have to.
Yeah. That's the key, where you're meant to be.
Yeah. This is, I don't.
Well, I've been capturing nuggets from this episode because I was like, there's like 5 things here that Maven Myra has said that anyone considering taking a leap to entrepreneurship should know and do. Mm-hmm. 1, doing the internal work. If you haven't done that already, you can't skip that. She made that very clear. We know this too as coaches. You can't bypass the internal work.
Yes.
2, build your community. She said isolation is your enemy, so make sure you have people in your corner. 3, make the investment in someone who can help you build your strategy, right? You can't go it alone. It's a lot harder on your own.
Yes.
And even to that point, not to cut you off, Lauren, but to cut you off, even to that point, find somebody that can help you invest in your strategy. That doesn't necessarily always mean a monetary investment. Like you said earlier in the podcast, you may have some people within your community that you've already been building and continue to build that can help you with that, just because they want to see you succeed and they want this just as much as you want it for yourself. So
valid point.
I'll get to number 4. You say focused on the fastest way to make an income first. We tend to get ahead of ourselves and you want to do it all.
We like to do the cute stuff.
Yeah, the cute stuff, right?
Like post on Instagram.
Like, oh my God, let me just pick this color. Let me do this.
How can you make money first? And I loved your idea of keeping a dream journal. Like, not everything has to happen right away.
Mm-hmm.
Give it time.
I had a client that, years ago, she is one of the most brilliant teenagers I've ever met, ever encountered. And I honestly think that she's been here on this earth before. And I would tell her, I think I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And she's like, yeah, okay. So put it in the parking lot. And I'm like, what? And she's like, put it in the parking lot. Later. And I go, okay, break that down. And she's like, a parking lot is just cars that are parked. She's like, each car can be what you want to do. When it's time for that car to be moved, you'll move the car. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But journal, parking lot, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it,
do that. Yeah, definitely. Parking lot your ideas. And then finally you said, take care of yourself in the process, Rest is necessary. And obviously you've heard all three of us talk about this need to get still, listen, so you can actually hear your heart, your intuition, and know which move you need to make next. What else do you want to leave our audience with that will help them with this phase, if they're in this season of their life, that will move them in the direction of whatever they're trying to manifest?
I would say keep trusting yourself. We get into trouble more often than not when we don't trust ourselves, right? Trust that intuition, that gut, that feeling that is trying to lead you in a direction. And again, a lot of times, especially at the beginning, you won't understand it, but trust yourself. No one is going to look out for you here. And here's the thing about trusting ourselves. No one knows your purpose work, your soul work, more than you're going to know it. True. You are the one that has to get more intimate with what that is. So no one else can really tell you clearly what that is but you. So keep trusting yourself, keep taking the steps you need to move through that journey. And it is a journey. It's going to have peaks and valleys and wins and losses, but keep taking each step that you need. And the final thing is your CPR. You're capable, prepared, and ready for your very next step. Whatever that looks like, you are ready for it.
Love it.
I need to write that down. I mean, I know it'll be in our show notes, but I need to
it will be in the show notes.
I actually feel like I need to get that as a tattoo. That may be my next tattoo. I just
well, all right.
I mean, it just
we've done the work to even copyright that phrase, because I started seeing people kind of like, I was like, oh, wait, no, hold on. You're not giving me credit for that. But I think it's so important, especially for people in any type of transition, because you are very uncomfortable. It is unsettling, all of those things. And the thing that keeps rising up is, I'm not ready. I can't do it. I don't have the fill in the blank of whatever it is. But your CPR for the very next step. You might not be CPR yet for 10 steps ahead, but for the very next one, you have what you need for that.
That's like that podcast, Lauren, that you shared with me, Jay Shetty's podcast with Ed Milet. And I'm finishing listening to it, and he was just like, one more, he was like, I've gone to the gym and I've done 10 reps, 10 bench presses, but now I go to the gym and I do 10 reps plus one more. You always just keep moving ahead one step at a time, and like you said, I think so many of us, self included, where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I'm literally at step 3, but my mind and my mindset is at step 24.
Right.
The emotion that I have around not being able to accomplish step 24 is because I haven't done step 3, and it's just.
Well, what would you say, Corey? Put it in the parking lot.
Yeah, just put it in the parking lot. I probably should practice what I preach more often, but
put it in the parking lot. And with that said,
I like that parking lot.
Yeah.
Myra, what's next for you as far as where you're transitioning?
So I get I don't have any personal events or anything planned for this year. Listen, I'm really praying to God that we can hold that off. Let's hold that off. I did an event in November of 22 called the Rest Retreat. Ooh. And that rest stood for some particular things. And so really my goal with the podcast, so I've launched a podcast this year as well called Success with Sameness. And that really is solution-inspired stories to help high-performing women create success without sacrificing their relationships, their health, or their mental sanity. So that is my focus, really around that concept, that podcast, and really continuing to share the work, the stories that goes around that, because I believe that when we talk about abundant living, it doesn't have to include or mean that we are on the edge of burnout all the time, or we're exhausted and we physically don't feel well. Really continuing to put work into helping women see, believe, and execute that they can create success with some sameness, that you don't have to run around like a crazy person. So really continuing the podcast, which releases every other Friday on podcast channels. It's also on YouTube with video and on Spotify with video. So I'm really having so much fun, more fun than I actually thought I was going to have doing podcasting. I just thought this is going to be a whole lot of work. And it is, no doubt. but I really, and that's the thing that I have a whole team for. I sit in front of the camera, get cute and do the things, and then it hands off to other people to do the other stuff. So that is really, now this coming summer, I get to work with high school students on leadership development. And I always find that summer work to be such a joy and really exhausting and invigorating all at the same time, because obviously I'm normally working with adult women, but to get to work with these high school students in the summer and teach them leadership skills, it just, I'm always encouraged that our future is in pretty good hands. We, I think our era, we've screwed quite a few things up, but I think they're coming along behind us to do some amazing work. And the thing that I always leave with them is, everyone doesn't have the opportunity to work with Maven and Miara in the summer, but now you cannot unknow what I've taught you. And I need you to go back and be an inclusive, kind, caring person in the world. I tell them I'm putting positive pressure on you to be a caring, inclusive, and kind person. So that always brings us all to tears. The students, me, it's always a hot mess on the last day, but nonetheless, I really look forward to that.
I love what you just said. Positive pressure.
Yeah.
Positive pressure.
So Miara, you've told us a few places where our peeps can find you, your podcast. Where exactly can anybody find Miara? Where are all the places that people can find you? MiaraShaw.com. You will find everything, the podcast, the blogs, the everything. I am on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram, predominantly Miara Shaw, or it might be Maven Miara, but if you put in Miara Shaw, you'll find me on any of those platforms. Yeah. All right. Miara, I don't even know how to thank you. There's not enough words for me to thank you for all the nuggets that you've dropped, all the pearls of wisdom. I appreciate you. I know Lauren appreciates you. I really feel like this is just one of many appearances you will be making on our podcast, because you've left us with so much stuff. We appreciate you. I can basically say our listeners, I feel I can say that our listeners will appreciate everything that you've shared with us. Just thank you so much for your energy and your presence today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, my joy. I'm always excited to share with audiences, again, around this balance rhythm, this creating success with sameness, because that's one of those things, if we don't get a handle on this in our lives, the end does not look good. Like, you have great work to share with the world and you're laid up in a hospital bed because you've exhausted yourself. And that's not where we want to end up.
Yeah. So thank you so much again. Seriously, there's not enough words in my vocabulary, and I talk a lot, but there's not enough words for me to thank you for just everything that you did for this podcast today.
Yeah, it was my joy to meet you, Corey, again, and to meet you, Lauren. You guys are going to have a wonderful and successful podcast. I know you're going to be continuing to share great things with audiences. These are the types of conversations that the world needs more of. So I'm grateful to you ladies for creating this podcast and putting in the work to share it.
Oh, thanks, man. I just don't even know any other way.
Just keep fangirling. Miara,
yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Like Miara just said, go achieve success with sameness, and we'll see you all again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We appreciate our listeners more than you could ever know. If you liked any part of what you heard, please, please, please do us a favor and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're willing to go a step further, we would love for you to leave us a review and send this episode to a friend that you feel would be served by it in any way. We are so excited to finally share more about Catalyst, the community that we are building in conjunction with this podcast. Our mission with Catalyst is to create an authentic, safe, and inclusive space for heart-centered, growth-minded, multi-passionate women to navigate their life's transitions by building meaningful relationships, learning from one another, and growing into the best version of themselves, and maybe even make the world a little bit better in the process. If you're interested in becoming a founding member of Catalyst, we would love to learn more about you and have you apply at wearecatalyst, all one word, .social. We only have a limited number of spots for this founding member round, so be sure to get your application in soon. Again, the website to apply is wearecatalyst.social. We look forward to the possibility of getting to know you on a deeper level and supporting you in navigating your life's transitions. We cannot wait to have you join us for the next episode. Until then, we encourage you to lean into your community and embrace the growth that inevitably happens when you're in transition. See you guys next week.